And we are live. Welcome to our very special Pitfalls edition of Whiskey, Wine and Writing, where we'll be chatting with the YA, NA, and A mentors. I am E.L. Wicker, don't even know my own name. And co-hosting with me today is the lovely...
I'm Elle. I'm the LL one. It's okay. It's been a long day already, and it's only Thursday. I am super excited, super pumped to find out what all of these amazing mentors are taking for Pitch Wars, which is like the pitching event of the online year. So let's get to meet our mentors.
Yes, please. Sharon, can you tell us a bit about yourself, what you're looking for, and anything that you have out there in the world right now?
Sure. Hi everyone. So start off, I'm talking to you from the future because it's Friday morning at 10 a.m. I'm looking for young adult and new adult. I don't mind it being a bit different in the new adult. I don't mind if it breaks down the traditional formats. Like, I'm not necessarily looking for straight romance. And I'm not necessarily looking for contemporary, but if it is, like, I'd like it to be different to what's already out there. I'd love to see some, fantasy, some speculative fiction, some science fiction, some humor. I love, like, funny stories, and just anything that breaks the mold would be really cool. So what have I got out there? At the moment, there's just a few short stories floating around, but I have a book coming out with City Owl Press in November. It's called Divided, and it's from the Open Heart series. So, yeah, that's me.
Thank you. Molly?
Hi, I'm Molly Lee, and I'm looking for young adult and new adult. Young adult, I'd love something with an edge. Something that maybe pushes the boundaries of what's out there before this. And for new adult, I'd really love something like supernatural or fantasy and see it branch out from the contemporary world. Something like Cora Carmack's Inspire, I really, really love. But I will still take good old contemporary too. I do love that, but I would love to see it branch out more. So, and I have a book coming out in 2016. It's new adult contemporary as well. So.
Thank you. Kelly?
Hi, I'm Kelly Siskind. I am accepting new adult submissions this year. My first year as a mentor, very excited. I was a mentee last year, and I'm all about the romance, love, contemporary. That's probably, might be my number one, but I'm also interested in magical realism. I still want it to have a, high romantic presence for sure. And definitely like romantic suspense as well. And I love different settings. And if you can work food or something into it, I like romance, something centered maybe around a winery or a restaurant or something fun like that, a great vacation spot, something where the setting becomes integral to the story as well. I have my debut novel, Chasing Crazy, is coming out in January.
Yay.
And it's a great quirky story about a Canadian girl who goes backpacking through New Zealand to learn to own her crazy, because we're all a little bit crazy, and that's why we write.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Jennifer?
Okay. Hi, I'm Jen Blackwood, and I write new adult and adult contemporary romance. And I am looking this year for YA and NA. For new adult, I would really, really like to see maybe a study abroad novel. That would be really great. Kelly's was a really great one last year, and me and Brighton were fighting over it last year during Pitch Wars. But, she licked it first, so, what can I say? But I would really love to see a study abroad novel, or I would... and I'm only taking contemporary new adult, so contemporary romance. And I would like to see, out of college setting would be really great. First jobs, maybe, an office romance. I really am into those right now, so if you have that, send it my way. A road trip novel would be really awesome. Anything with travel is really cool. And I guess a little bit about me. I have 2 books out already. So I have Unethical and Foolproof, which came out early this year and then late last year. And I have 4 more books coming out next year with Entangled Brazen and also Entangled Embrace and a 90s anthology that I'm doing later this year. So lots coming out. And I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Elizabeth?
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Briggs. I'm doing YA and new adult. For new adult, I want contemporary romance and romantic suspense. So anything with a strong romance and anything with high concept and diverse characters, I want all of those. And I have 4 new adult books out now. 1 is a novella and then 3 full-length books. And they're all about characters who go on reality TV shows and find love that way. So, high concept. I want it.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Brighton?
Hello, I'm Brighton. I am taking new adult and adult, contemporary romance, paranormal romance, or romantic suspense. Basically, if it doesn't have romance, I don't want it. I'm not the mentor for you. And I'm open to almost anything. I'm not looking for anything specifically. I've got a list a mile long on my blog for the things that I'm looking for, but I love tropes. I love blue-collar heroes and alphas and betas and gamma heroes, and I mean, I'm really open to a lot, and I'm really hoping I see some unique paranormal this year. I didn't get many last year, so rumor has it it's coming around again.
I know, right? I'm
Fingers crossed.
So much. You start writing another one, quick.
Yes, I'm excited. As far as my books, I write new adult and adult, contemporary romance, and romantic suspense. I have 2 novellas out that are adult and 4 novels that are new adult. My latest release came out just 2 weeks ago while I was in New York City, so that was a exciting release, we'll call it. That's it. That's me.
Thank you so much. We're going to start taking questions now from all the viewers. So if you have a question for the YANA mentors, if you could tweet us with the hashtag WWWwriting with your question. Al, have you got the first question there for us, please?
I do, and I am going to try and take them in as I get them. If I miss your question, I am so sorry, but we are already getting tons and tons of questions. So, the first questions that I have is, how important is a romantic subplot for you? And then, parentheses, especially if you're mentoring YA. So I imagine it's partial to NA as well, with emphasis on YA. And we will start with Sharon.
Look, for me, I don't need romance in there. I'm happy to take either. Of course, I love that, you know, YA, tingly, romance, new love. Like, that's really cool. But I'm happy to accept anything that has, like, friendships as a theme, or just, yeah, there's no romance subplot at all. I don't mind either way.
Miss Molly?
I love romance. And for young adult, I find that I tend to read more that has the romantic edge just because it's such an important part of that time of your life, I think, for most people, and finding that new love, and I get excited about it. So yeah, it really is important for me. But of course, if it's not crucial to the plot, like if it's a thriller straight up, you know, I wouldn't expect it to be a crucial role in it. So.
And Callie?
Definitely need the romance for me. Being new adult and adult, it's what I write, it's what I feel strongest as a mentor. So part of me, what I feel like, what am I best and what am I going to give the most to my mentee, and definitely that's romance for me. In magical realism, which I will definitely am interested in as well, it doesn't have to be the focus, but I do want it to be an integral part of the story for sure. And then in NA and adult, I definitely want romance focused, whether suspense or contemporary, want it to be the focus of the manuscript.
And we are on to Miss Jennifer.
For YA, I'm fine with a friendship book. The romance doesn't need to be. Sorry, my husband's like coming in the door. This is what happens when you have to like parent and do this at the same time. Anyway, YA it's not as important to me. It can be a friendship book, but I would really love a romance in YA. But new adult, I need the romance. It needs to be an integral part of the book.
Thank
Miss
you,
Elizabeth.
I definitely want a romance, at least a subplot. If it doesn't, it's probably not right for me. Like even my YA thriller that comes out next year has a pretty big romance in it, so I think I need a romance.
Fair enough. Thank you, Brighton.
I don't want a romantic subplot. I want a romantic plot, period. So if romance is a subplot, it's not for me. Like Kelly said, I mean, I know my strengths, and my strengths are romance. It's not anything else. So I want to play to that.
Thank you.
All good answers, ladies. Thank you so very much. Okay, pulling in another question, and this time we will start with Molly. This question is, would seeing a book that's part of a series be a good thing or bad thing?
It's not necessarily a bad thing. I do know that some agents prefer at least standalone just because it is an easier sell, at least from what I've heard. But I mean, there's always room for branching out in a series, even if you do write it and it can sit on its own. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but I think you should focus on writing the best book possible the first time around, and then if it's that good, then you should, you could have a natural series come out of it. So.
Thank you, Kelly. It's over to you.
Yeah, I would say thank you. I would say as well that romance, you're seeing tons of series. It's super popular. It's hot right now for sure. But they are more companion books than, continuations. And I think what agents do want to see is its ability to stand alone and then its ability to branch out. So it's nice to have the option that it's going to branch into a series, but not rely on the fact that it's a series. If it is relying on the fact it's a series, it really depends on the concept and how strong it is. I wouldn't turn it away for sure, but you're probably safer in terms of the agent quest to keep it more as a strong standalone that has the potential to branch out. Did we cut off?
I'm sorry, no, my microphone was muted. Jennifer, please.
Was I that bad? Is that why it cut off?
You spoke and then everybody went silent.
It was just so good what you said, Kelly.
I know, it felt like it just fell flat.
I think we're all trying not to talk over each other, so we just don't talk for like 30 seconds.
Yeah. She's going to talk first. And I'll let you introduce each person, and I'll stay quiet. I think that's the best thing to do.
All right, I think we're with Jennifer next, correct?
Yes.
All right, back on track. Here we go.
Oh. Okay, yeah, I was going to say exactly what Kelly said. So I mean, I'll save us some time. I mean, that's exactly what I was going to say. So if it has potential for a series, excellent. Companion novels are really in right now, as Kelly was saying. So potential, awesome. But don't always bank on it being a series. Make the book as awesome as you can, just as a standalone as well.
Thank you. And Elizabeth?
Yeah, I agree with what they said. Make it a standalone, but with series potential. I think that's really the best thing to do.
Thank you. Brighton?
Yeah, that's a ditto. The biggest thing for me in series is I want to read a complete story arc within each book. I read one book, which will remain unnamed. I thought I had a crap ebook because I turned the page. It was like this was the last sentence, and then they jumped to their death in hell or something like that. And I was like, okay, I'll turn the page, and it ended.
What?
And I was so mad. I was so mad. So if it's a series like that, and I think that that's definitely more common in YA, not contemporary, but in different genres. So I don't think I have to worry about that. But if it's not a complete story arc within each book, I wouldn't want to see it. And just when you're querying agents, because I'm sure some people want to know this, if you have a series like that you're thinking of, unless it's like a high concept series of, let's say, Mercenaries or something like that, I would put in your query letter that this novel is, an NA novel at X number of words, and it's the planned first in a 3-book series or however long, but it has the ability to stand alone. That's what agents are looking for, and when editors go, if they love it, I mean, they could offer on more books, or they can offer as just standalone and see how that does.
Excellent advice, all, and Sharon.
So I agree with what everybody said, but I guess I wanted to share something about like my process. So my book was asked to be rewritten a couple of times through revise and resubmits and stuff like that. And so throughout that process, it definitely started up as standalone, but then it got picked up, and I had to change it. And we knew it was going to be a series. So then once I had that with a publisher, I had that freedom to change the ending, and it was like, so it's, even though it's still got that arc, it's quite obvious that the story is not done. But I still had to make sure the first time that it was completely done. Like, people could tell that they could end it there and they'd be happy and they would be satisfied. I'm not saying they're not going to be satisfied with it now, but I'm leaving them wanting to read more. Make sense?
That it does. All right. So I've got another question, and this time we are going to start with Kelly. And I'm going to sort of put two questions together here. I see this a lot on Twitter and just in contests in general. One question was, what is the main difference between NA and adult, or YA and NA? And to piggyback onto that, I wanted to ask, if a story is about a 20-something, could that be NA?
Could that be, I'm sorry, what was the last bit? Could that be
NA, new adult.
Okay.
So,
Sorry.
yes, I mean, generally, a 20-something falls into the new adult category, so I would say that's a yes. But, as we try to educate people about new adult, it's not just about the age, it's about life stages. What are you going through? It's about being on your own for the first time, possibly, or really in this day and age, in your early 20s. Sometimes people aren't on their own. Sometimes they're still living at home. This is not uncommon. But it's about, maybe it's that life stage. It's trying to break free from, your parents in the family home, or earning money for your first time, or figuring out what you want to do with your life. So it's about those struggles. And a lot of people talk about, is NA just about sex? And, although we talk about the romance and everything, I think a big part of that for me is it's such a big part of that time in your life. And to tell a romance without it sometimes is almost being disingenuous about what that experience is like for somebody. So for me, it's all an honest portrayal of what it's like to be in your early 20s. I can't speak so much for the YA side of things because I'm not as familiar with that, but and adult, again, you're dealing with more adult issues, things that are going on in your time, that time of your life. It can be people, you see a bit more people having kids, or a divorce, or those struggles, or switching jobs, or things like that. So it's really about life stages, I would say.
Excellent, excellent answer. Jennifer, you want to contribute to that for us?
Yeah, so Kelly has some really good things to say, and that was pretty much a lot of what I was going to say. Also, a big difference between YA and NA. YA is about, firsts, like a lot of first boyfriends, first loves, really kind of getting to know yourself as a person. That's more what YA is about, and then NA is just a different life, or stage in life, being on your own, your first job, maybe, going to college. It just depends, But a big thing is the voice. So voice will be a lot different between, YA, or sorry, NA and adult, or even YA and NA, although YA and new adult voice tend to be more similar. It sounds younger. So, yeah, even though your characters are in their early 20s, it could still be an adult contemporary just based off of the voice even. So I think the best thing to do if you're really confused about new adult and adult or YA and NA is to do your research, find comp titles that are similar to your writing style. So yeah, that would be my biggest thing is if you're really wondering, find some books that are similar to your books and see what they're categorized as.
Thank you, thank you. And Elizabeth?
Yeah, I think new adult is very much a transitionary period, so it's sort of like in between YA and new adult. It's all about like figuring out who you are, and I think also who you want to be for the rest of your life and who you want to be with during that time. Whereas I think in adult, maybe you have things a little bit more figured out, like you're already settled in your job, maybe they've been married before, maybe not. But in new adult, it's much more like, oh, I'm just out of college or I'm in college, and what am I going to do now? How do I do this on my own? So that's what I think.
Well, thank you for that insight, ma'am. And on to Miss Brighton.
I feel like it's going to be a lot of dittos. Basically everything they said. One thing, too, between NA and adult, we're seeing that the NA flood isn't happening quite as often or readily anymore, especially with the big houses. So a lot of times they might have you market it, an NA, as an adult contemporary, especially is what they'll look for. So that's something to think about. As far as the differences, pretty much what Liz said as far as life experience and sort of where you are. I mean, adult generally takes place late 20s to, I would say, maybe early to mid 30s. And you just deal with different things. You don't have those sort of uncertainties like you do in new adult about finding your place in the world and sort of where you belong. But I do think that the voice, I'm going to disagree with Jen here, I do think that the voice in new adult and adult can mesh very, very, very easily together. I think in adult contemporary, more times you see third person, but it's not unheard of to see third person in new adult or first person in adult. So it's basically a whole lot of what ifs. There's no concrete answer for it.
Well, thank you for that answer. We're going to move on to Sharon. Give us your view, please.
Okay, so I actually think there's a lot of similarities between young adult and new adult because both of them are about like finding where you fit, discovering who you are. But for me, the main difference, and this is in general, is that what people are facing in new adult is usually more complex. Not that stories aren't complex in YA, I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is you've got more to deal with, like, you've got to like work out where you're going to live, how you're going to look after yourself, where you're going to get your money from, things like that, which when for the majority of young adult, usually they're living at home with their parents or another relative or something like that. So that's in general. That's what I kind of see in the main differences is that it's like that branching out on your own. I mean, gosh, I just thought I'd love to see one where like, someone's being kicked out of the nest and having to deal with something like that. That would be like a cool concept to look at. And I also definitely think that someone in their 20s can be new adult for sure. And I know that I'd like to see something a bit more diverse because like, while I was at university, when I was in my 20s, in my new adult phase, I was also married with a kid. And I haven't really seen a lot that's looking at things like that, like the different experience. Or, I'd like to see something that like where someone doesn't go to uni at all, like straight out into the workforce from school. So I think there's a lot of themes that can be explored a bit more in New Adult that we haven't touched on yet.
Excellent point. And we are going to round out that question with Molly.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what everybody said, naturally. I guess I would add that I feel like the consequences are a lot different in young adult and new adult. In young adult, you may get grounded, you may get a bad reputation for doing the wrong thing, but in new adult, if you do the wrong thing, you may not eat for a week, you may get evicted, you may, if you sleep with the wrong guy. New adults, you could have serious consequences, and so I feel like there's not more at stake necessarily, just it depends on each character and each, setting, but I feel like the stakes are very, very different, and it can, young adult is more about I'm trying to figure out who I am, and new adult's like, okay, I pretty much know who I am now, and I have this goal, and what's standing in my way of achieving this goal for me, for my life, not for my parents, not for my siblings, not for high school reputation. So I really would love to see new adult branch out into more things like Sharon was saying, maybe straight into the workforce or, anything like that, just branching out to where it's not always university or it's not always contemporary, fantasy and supernatural and things like that. So.
Thank you. And I'm going to try and sound less like a TV show host. The next question that I have is, assuming you'll want a synopsis, how long or short should it be? And Jennifer will take this one away.
Okay. Well, I will be asking for a synopsis, and I would like one between 1 to 2 pages. That's about typical. So just enough to sum up the major plot points of the book.
That seems pretty straightforward. Elizabeth, what are your preferences?
I do like to ask for a synopsis just so I can see, how the book goes and how it ends. I'm not going to be like super critical of it or anything. I usually like it maybe like 1 to 3 pages. If you do more than that, then it's like I might as well just read more of the book, I guess. Like, keep it concise, but you don't need to cut it all into 1 page, I think.
1 to 3 pages sounds pretty good. I think you assuaged a lot of fears out there. It's not critical, but you will be looking for it. Brighton, how do you feel about synopsis?
I will definitely ask for it. The only time I don't know if I asked for Kelly's synopsis. Did I ask for a synopsis? Yeah, I just read the whole thing. I just inhaled her manuscript. So I didn't need to ask for it. But I asked for several. I want to say maybe 15 to 20 last year. So if I am even remotely considering it, I will ask for one. As far as length, I don't care. I mean, don't give me a 10-page synopsis, but I don't care. Whatever you have is fine, and I'm not looking at it to see voice or, it doesn't have to be catchy like a query does. I just need to see if your manuscript has jumped the shark. Basically, that's all I'm looking for, to make sure that you've got a full arc in there, that your characters have growth, that you have a plot that can withstand 300 pages or however long it is, and that's it.
Jump the shark is quickly becoming my new favorite phrase.
We've I'll just cut in there. We've lost Jennifer. Hopefully there she is. She's coming back in. And we're just about halfway through now, so don't forget to tweet us your questions for the YANAA mentors. I did that wrong. YANAA mentors. Can I just do it all wrong? The hashtag is WWWriting, so just tweet those on in. And sorry, Elle, as you were.
Oh, no, you're fine. You're absolutely fine. Now, we were just about to ask Sharon her synopsis preferences.
Oh gosh, I loathe synopsises. I loathe writing them, and I try to avoid making people writing them wherever I can. I'm like Brighton. If I love a book, I will inhale it. And I actually did have Kelly's last year as well, and I read the whole thing. But I knew that Brighton was the right mentor, so I stepped aside. I would have, if I had wanted it, I would have gone for it despite the licks.
I would have pillow wrestled that for you. That was mine. I was given that manuscript. I would have bribed Kelly too.
Yeah, but in saying that, like, I have learned a valuable lesson that a previous person that I've edited their book, and I sort of like, gosh, you know, I didn't expect this at the end. I don't think this is ready, and so I might ask for one if I'm unsure, but I will only like look for 2 pages. Yeah.
So far, 1 to 3. Here's the breadth, 1 to 2 being the average. Molly, what do you think about synopsis? Synopses?
Well, I know we all hate writing them, or the majority of us do, but I do ask for them if I'm interested, just because it gives you a sense of if the author knows where their character is going, where the conflict really is, and if they overcome it or not. And it really shows the arc, usually, like Brighton said. And I do like 1 page. I know that's harsh, but you can send me, like, I've had mentees in the past send me a 5-page synopsis, and I normally help them out and get it down to 1 page. And just because agents usually look for that, you know, the shorter the better, and it just shows, it almost helps the process of getting what's really important in your story, what's really important to your character, where the stakes are, and I found it's a really good process to break it down as short as you can, because it brings that out, and sometimes you can lose stuff that just was absolutely not critical to your story at all, and it was just slowing the pace down. So yeah, I normally ask for them, but yeah, if somebody sends me a 5-page synopsis, it's all good. We can work on it and get it down to shorter. So that's how I feel about them.
That's what Pitch Wars is all about, isn't it? Okay, and last but not least, Miss Kelly, how do you feel about the dreaded synopsis?
Well, first, I'd just like to say that you guys are all making me blush. And I love how much you guys loved reading my manuscript last year. And synopsis, yeah, I'll probably ask for 1 as well if I am considering. And for me, 1 to 3 pages. And just to reinforce that it's not about shoving every little detail from your novel into 1 to 3 pages. It is about sticking to your main characters, your main plot points, and just showing how, you know, the arc travels from the beginning to the end. So don't give us all the nitty-gritty, just the main points. That's all.
Thank
So
you.
it sounds like everybody's in agreement, 1 to 3 pages for goal, main plot points, main character, no need for trying to squeeze voice and everything under the sun into it. Okay, so we're going to proceed to another question. I'm going to sort of break this one apart a little bit and compound upon it. This question is, what are the number 1 problems you come across in the first chapter that turn you off from a manuscript? And I will add on to that is, at what point during reading do you feel, okay, I think this might not work for me? Can you tell pretty early on, or is it further down the line? And for this, we will go with Elizabeth.
Give me the hard one. Let's see. Okay, the thing I don't like in the first chapter is backstory. I think you should go through your first 10 pages and see how much backstory is in there and see how much of it you can cut and move to a later chapter. That really, to me, is the biggest problem that I see most of the time. Wait, what was the second part of the question?
How far along do you get before you can sort of tell that this might not be for me? Is it usually early on? Is there something early that tips you off, or is there something that might come up later where it's like, you know what, this might be the decision maker for me?
Oh, man. Okay, I used to read queries for an agent for over a year, so I can usually tell if it's for me in, like, the first paragraph. So, sorry, but... And if not, first chapter, I can usually tell.
That is some serious skill right there, first paragraph.
I read a lot of
Brighton
chapters, like thousands.
My turn?
I am both envious and frightened at that same time. Yes, Brighton. What are your
Okay. Let's see. Problem areas. I would say yes. Backstory, info dump. Grammar is a big one for me. You should have a grasp of grammar, enough so that I can read it. It doesn't have to be perfect. But mistakes that my 10-year-old can catch, I shouldn't find them in your manuscript. that makes me a hard ass, I know, but sorry. As far as when I will stop reading, you know, it really depends on the book, because if it's a premise that I'm really interested in, or something that sounds great, or the query sounds great, and I read the pages and it's not that great, I'll probably give it a lot longer than I would if it was a premise that was just sort of meh for me. On the other hand, if it's horrible and I know that it's not for me, a horrible match, where I know that I'm not going to be able to do, it doesn't play to my strengths or my taste, then generally I can probably tell pretty early on, like Liz. I would say within the first couple pages. So, I mean, I know that doesn't help. It really depends on premise, and if it's what I'm looking for, I will give it a lot longer if it's one of the things on my wish list. And probably ask for a synopsis. Sorry.
Well, I mean,
I should just wear like devil horns over here.
I think everybody's going to ask for a synopsis. I see that in the feed all the time. So
yeah.
No devil horns. You're a munkin here.
Okay.
Sharon, how do you feel about, you know, first chapter mistakes, and how far can you get before you're like, okay, I think I need to move on?
It just depends. Like, if it clicks, it clicks. If it doesn't click, but I think it's a good premise, like Brighton, I'll give it a bit longer. Some things that like really turn me off is weak beginnings and weak endings to a chapter. So, like, if somebody, you know, starts it, you're waking up. A pet thing of mine is like if they're going for a jog. I don't know why. I read that somewhere that it was cliche, and I was like, yeah, I don't like that. I don't like, you know, the dark and stormy night beginnings. Like, if you're starting it by describing the weather, I'm a bit turned off. Like, there's really no excuse for not having like a really punchy first line. Like, my first line in my book is "Someone will die, so I will live." Like, straight away, bang, grabs you. But in saying that, there was one that I saw that was really, really clever. I can't remember which contest I saw it in, but it started off with, "I am sitting in the car," and I was like, oh my goodness, yawn.
Oh my god, that was so good.
But then it went to, correction, "I am hiding in the car," and I was like, ooh, okay, that's, like, then that dragged me in a bit more, like, what's going on, why is she hiding? So, you know, it can be good. But then the ending of the chapter, if you end the chapter with your MC going to sleep, like it's the end of the day and your MC's gone to bed, like, no, don't do that. You should be making the end of, especially the first chapter, drag us into the next chapter. Something needs to happen that makes us want to read on. So you should almost, for me, have it a bit cliffhangery at the end of your first chapter. Yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you. So we have learned that no jogging in opening chapters for Sharon. Molly, what turns you off in a first chapter for a book?
Well, I completely agree with everybody. Too much backstory. Waking up from a dream is a really big issue for me. Cliches like that get dropped in there. I find that I've been blessed to do this since the beginning, since 2012, I think. So I found a lot of the submissions that if there's solid writing in the piece, but it's just not there in the beginning, I will request more pages. Like, I usually request the first 3 chapters. And I find that a lot of the times the novel starts in the end of chapter 2, you know, and the writer just had to get that, you know, almost character sketch out of the way in the beginning, which I totally get, because, you know, we all have to do that. But so I will keep reading if I see the writing is solid. Now, if I see a ton of mistakes that are just, you know, mistakes that you could easily pick out if you'd read it a couple times, then, you know, I'll probably cut off on the first 5 pages and be like, okay, this is not ready to be, you know, before agents. But I usually request 3 chapters or the first 30 pages, and usually I find that people get a hang of their story, like, in the middle of it. And I agree with Sharon completely. The first line is huge to me. Like, you should instantly grab my attention. You know, the readers, they have tons of great books to choose from, so readers are not going to waste a lot of time, you know, when they're previewed online or if they're in the bookstore. if the first paragraph doesn't catch you. And one of my previous mentees, who's an amazing author, Mindy Reese, she told me one time that the first line of your novel and the last line of your novel should kind of come full circle and have like that complete circle, which I always took to heart in all of my next writings that I did after she told me that, and now I look for it in manuscripts that are subbed to me, and it is really important to have that kind of completion because it shows your arc and it shows you knew where your plot was going, and I thought that was some fantastic advice. So
that is fantastic advice. I'm going to have to take that into consideration myself. So I'm sort of hearing that first impression is pretty important. And don't send your first draft because beginner mistakes are going to get you tossed pretty quickly. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but it does have to be polished. Kelly, how is your view on what turned you off to the opening of a manuscript, that first chapter mistake?
So it's not. I agree with so much everybody has said. Definitely want to see a decent grasp of grammar. Do I want to see a perfect opening line that's going to grab me 100%? And you want all that. But I will also say that, for me, definitely part of the job, what I'm doing here as a mentor is I'm taking that manuscript to that next level. And I feel like I'm really strong at finding where a book should start and how to massage all of that. So what I really need to see is a grasp of voice. And, it's that arbitrary word that, floats around in the writing community of voice. And if I see, personality and I can feel and picture this, character walking and talking, then, and I like the premise, if the start isn't quite there for me, I'm willing to read on because this might be something that I can really help fix in somebody's manuscript. So I'll just sort of, I'll put that out there, that voice is really important to me. And the premise and all of that, but I'm still looking for things that I can fix, and I feel like that's something that is fixable.
Thank you, ma'am. And last but not least, Miss Jennifer.
I actually am going to echo what Kelly said. I think that voice is the most important thing. That's the first really thing that I look for when I'm reading a manuscript, if I'm captured by the character. And I agree that a lot of people don't start in the right place. I find this, when I critique my writing partners, I'm also strong at finding where a book should begin, because sometimes you don't start in the right place. Also, a big turnoff is info dumping. I really dislike when there's 3 pages of backstory at the beginning that should not be there. It should be splattered throughout. So that's something that you can work on, though. But a big no-no would be any grammatical mistakes that you can easily catch within a pass over 2 or 3 times of looking at your manuscript. And then as I'm reading, I guess I could tell by the first page or 2 if I want to read on. So.
All right, fine-tooth comb, folks. Fine-tooth comb.
Jump in quick.
All right, so, yeah.
I just want to reiterate what Kelly and Jen both said about first lines. They're not as important to me either. I think it puts a lot of pressure on writers to say your first line has to be spectacular. That's part of why I'm here, to be a mentor, to help you sort of figure that out. But your first page definitely should pull me in. But like the other one said, I mean, I don't want it to open with waking up or jogging. I've never actually read that, but I guess that wouldn't be great either. Or working out. I mean, just anything, just sort of day-to-day activities, like somebody doing the laundry or dishes. I mean, no, we don't want any of that. But the first line doesn't have to blow me over. It would be great if it did. I think Kelly's first line made me laugh, and that was awesome, but there were other ones that I was considering as well for my alternate, and therefore I can't remember them. So it's not that they weren't strong, it's just that they didn't have that punch right away, but I still loved them.
I just want to jump in quickly as well and say, like, The question was like, what do we see as problems? That didn't mean that a killer line is enough for me to pass someone over, because I'm pretty sure with my mentee last year we worked her opening line, so it's not a deal breaker. It's just that it's problems that I see.
So we need an opening overall that pulls you in, but it can be worked on. So
yeah,
we're going to polish those up and get those ready for the agent round is what it sounds like.
Right.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so this is the question that I have seen in lots of contests and just online in general. What is the lowest level of acceptable sex speak / actions in NA? Would steamy scenes but no sex deter you from choosing a mentee? And I'm going to piggyback with how much would you accept in YA if you're doing YA? And this time we will start with Miss Brighton.
Yay, the sex question goes right to me.
I planned it that way. I really, really did.
It wasn't an accident.
Awesome. So is it how much or how little we're willing to look at? Basically, is that what it's coming down to?
Lowest acceptable level for NA, and then conversely, the highest acceptable level for YA, if you do that.
Okay, well, I don't do YA, so I'll just talk about NA. I said in my bio that if your characters are having sex, I want to read about it. I don't like closed-door sex scenes. I'm a pervert. I like
I love it too. I hate closed-door sex scenes. I want to know everything that's happening in detail.
Yes, yes. However, having said that, I don't like to use absolutes and say always or never. So if it's got a great premise and an awesome voice and likable characters and it makes me swoon my face off, I would let it pass if there wasn't on-screen sex. But it would really, really have to blow me away.
Excellent. Thank you, ma'am. And on to Sharon.
So I will accept no sex in new adult. I'm fine with that. I am also fine with steamy scenes that do not result in actual intercourse. I'm okay. I'm not okay with erotica pretending to be new adult. If you have a story that is just predominantly sex throughout it, then I think it's erotica and it should be marketed as such, not new adult. For young adult, it depends on the context for the sex scene. So in general, in young adult, sex is closed doors, off screen, whatever you want to call it. And I'm fine with that. Again, I don't want to see erotica pretending to be young adult, and I actually have read one that was erotica pretending to be young adult, which was rather shocking for me. But
look at every mentor's face on the bottom. That was hilarious.
Yeah, so it's all in context. Like, you know, if there needs to be a sex scene in the young adult and it needs to be there, that's fine. But if it's gratuitously added in just because, oh my, these two characters should be having sex now, I'm not okay with that, because I know that there was one that I read and it was by one of my favorite authors, and I read it and the characters had sex and I'm like, but there was nothing in their relationship that even showed that they were going that way at all. Like, and even like, it was seriously like the character just went, okay, I think we should have sex now. Like, it really, yeah, it just really threw me. And so, like, it has to be natural. It has to be part of the story, an integral to the character development, the character arc. It just can't be there for the sake of having a sex scene.
That is a good point on all broad strokes there. Particularly if it's erotica, I think we do have some mentors who are borderline with that, so that would be to submit to them. So keep an eye out on mentors' bios, see what they want specifically. Yeah. Molly, how do you feel about not enough or too much?
I haven't come across a new adult that's had too much yet. Luckily, I've read some where it's pretty crucial to the plot line, and that's where I agree with Sharon a lot on that. If for young adult especially, if the characters are just having sex to add shock value or to keep up with, you know, the times or whatever you want to call it, I don't appreciate that, and because I don't like forcing characters into any situation where it's not natural. So if it's totally natural in young adult, I'm all for it, and I think there are ways to make it very distinct, differently from new adult, where it's not so spotlight on it. But in new adult, I'm like Brighton. I want to see it. I want to be in the room. I want to feel it, and I don't have like a set number of scenes where it's like, oh, this is too much, because if a good plot and character-driven or plot-driven, whichever you do, it will be natural. It won't be like the sex is driving the story. That's erotica. That's where you cross that line. But for a new adult, you won't notice, hopefully, how many sex scenes there are if it's written properly and it's part of the natural arc. So that's where it would land for me. It just has to be crucial. It can't be for shock value, and it can't be because you think it needs to be placed here. It has to be these two characters are about to die. They got to get it off.
That is the best reason, I guess.
Right.
We are on to Kelly.
I'd probably want to have sex as I'm about to die, so I'll just put that out there.
No, I agree.
Sorry, that wasn't the question. The question was, so I do like reading the open door sex for sure, like everybody else, most people on this panel. I am open to not having it there, but like Brighton said, I need the steam and the sexual tension. So it's that tension and that, needing those characters together, and if it's, if my belly is swooping and all that stuff is going on, then I would totally be into that type of novel as well. And what everybody has sort of said about it furthering the plot, really what you want to focus on that is the emotional growth during a sex scene, and that's sort of where the scales tip, or the emotional pulling back in a sex scene, but it's really showing the emotional journey of that character, and that's sort of helping to move the plot. So it's all integral, and I like it steamy, and if it's not steamy, then definitely give me that tension.
Tension and steam are crucial, it sounds like, and then people are varying on whether closed or open, but it sounds like the tension and the steam, regardless of either one, needs to be there. I'm learning something here myself. Elizabeth, you are up next.
No, she's not.
Did I skip someone?
No,
Sorry.
Poor Jennifer.
Do not skip me on the sex.
Jennifer,
so sorry.
I read her new adult book.
I'm so sorry.
Yes, you should be. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Okay. Let's see. I pretty much agree with everyone else. I think that it just needs to fit the story, and fit the characters. You have to ask yourself, why are you adding in these sex scenes? Like, is it because it fits their emotional or character growth, or is it because you think it's just expected? And if you think it's just expected, I don't think that's probably the right thing to do. So just make sure that it fits the characters in the story. As for YA, again, it just needs to fit the story. I think that maybe I don't really want to see graphic sex in YA. I don't think I'd really like to see that. Actually, no, I would definitely not want to see that, so please don't do that. Or please don't submit that to me. But yeah, I don't want that YA erotica stuff. So, yeah. At least it wasn't middle grade erotica. That would be even more disturbing. So, my eyes! Okay, anyway. But for new adult, I like steamy. I like sex. But it just has to fit the story. Yeah.
Thank you, and 1,000 apologies once again.
Yeah, I was just joking with you.
We move on to, I don't even know what happened there with my brain. Now we go to Elizabeth.
I'm too scarred thinking about middle grade erotica.
I know, right?
I don't think so. I like steamy new adult. If it doesn't have it, I would probably want it, but if it works without it, then that's fine too. In YA, I'm okay with sex. Probably, less graphic, but my YA mentee 2 years ago, Audrey, had a lesbian fantasy, and it had a sex scene in it, and it sold, and I'm pretty sure her editor didn't make it take it out, so, but it's not like super graphic or anything, but it worked, so I was happy it was there.
Thank you, ladies, one and all, for the answer there, and it looks like we are approaching the end of the hour, so I absolutely did not hear what you said. What?
We sure are. We've only got 4 minutes left. Is there anything that anybody would like to add before we finish? We'll start with Sharon, please.
I think one of the things for me is if your book doesn't really fit somewhere, so you've got something that's outside of the square, that's different, that's unique, then I probably want to see it. So, yeah.
Thank you. Molly?
Basically, I'm excited to see new adult branch out a little more. I'm still in love with young adult, but if you have those supernatural new adults or those fantasy or sci-fi, I really want them, so send them my way.
Kelly, please.
Definitely focusing on the contemporary romance and the romance for me all over that. And like I said, magical realism, I'm definitely interested with the strong romantic element. But I'm just excited to see what's going to come into my inbox, and I'm excited to work with my mentee.
Thank you. Jennifer?
God, I'm just gonna be Kelly because I agree with everything she says. So my name's now Kelly, okay? But yeah, I would really like to see contemporary romance. Something with travel would be really great. But I'm just really excited to work with my next mentee. I think it's going to be really fun, and I can't wait to get your manuscript into tip-top shape.
Thank you, Jennifer. Elizabeth?
I'm going to repeat what I said last night for those who weren't watching last night, which is don't stress too much about the 5 exact mentors that you pick, because we do share ones that are not quite right for us. Like, I think I gave one of them to Brighton last year. I think maybe your alternate.
I think you might have gave me my alternate, yeah.
Yeah. So, don't stress too much, because we do share them. And you can only pick 5, but we know what's good and what other mentors like too, so don't worry.
Thank you. And Brighton, please.
Let's see, contemporary romance, paranormal romance, romantic suspense, all with sex, preferably. Like Liz said, don't stress too much. Polish it as much as you can. Obviously we're not looking for a perfect manuscript. If we were, we would not be a mentor. There wouldn't be anything for us to do. So.
Thank you so much. That is the end of our hour. Tomorrow we will be speaking with the adult mentors. Is that correct, Elle? Who's co-hosting tomorrow? Do you know? Elle?
I do not, as a matter of fact. I think that Natasha will be back at that point in time, but I'm not entirely sure.
But I won't be here.
I have to work.
But join us tomorrow, same time again. And can I just say thank you all so much for joining us here. It's been wonderful to have you all. And I hope Pitch Wars goes awesome. And
thank you.
Thanks everybody for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
Bye.